Inflation, one of the hottest economic topics of the past few years. From rising food prices to soaring energy costs, inflation is squeezing everyone's wallets. But in the world of finance, there's been one asset that has sparked intense debate during these inflationary times: Bitcoin. Could Bitcoin be the hedge against inflation that so many people claim? Let's dive into how inflation is affecting Bitcoin and why some see it as a potential lifeboat. First, let's briefly cover inflation. Inflation happens when the purchasing power of money decreases, leading to an increase in the cost of goods and services. In 2023, we saw inflation rates remain stubbornly high, with global inflation averaging around 6%, far higher than the historical norm. Inflation hit hard in 2023. Especially in developed economies like the US, where the consumer price index rose by around 4% year over year, according to the Federal Reserve. As inflation rises, traditional fiat currencies lose value. For example, the US dollar's purchasing power has declined steadily, forcing investors to look for alternative assets to store value. This is where Bitcoin enters the conversation. Bitcoin has often been compared to digital gold because, much like gold, it has a fixed supply. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins in circulation, making it a scarce resource. With traditional assets like fiat currencies inflating, many argue that Bitcoin's scarcity makes it an attractive hedge against inflation. In 2023, Bitcoin's price hovered between $25,000 and $30,000, showing resilience during periods of high inflation. Many investors flocked to Bitcoin as a way to protect their wealth, believing that its decentralized nature and limited supply would offer protection against inflationary pressures. Let's look at the data. Despite Bitcoin's volatility, many believe it has the potential to hold value over time, especially during inflationary periods. In fact, Bitcoin outperformed several traditional assets in 2023, with year-to-date returns of around 80%, while inflation continued to erode the value of fiat currencies. Bitcoin's rise in 2023 was largely driven by renewed interest from institutional investors and hedge funds, many of whom saw it as a hedge against inflation, much like gold. Major companies like MicroStrategy and Tesla maintained their Bitcoin holdings, reinforcing the idea that it's a long-term store of value. So, how does Bitcoin function as a hedge against inflation? It boils down to three main factors: limited supply. As we mentioned, Bitcoin's supply is capped at 21 million, preventing inflationary devaluation like fiat currencies. Decentralization. Bitcoin operates outside the control of central banks, meaning it isn't subject to the same monetary policies that often lead to inflation. Global demand. Bitcoin is accessible to anyone with an internet connection, meaning it's in demand worldwide, especially in countries facing extreme inflation. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. While Bitcoin's scarcity makes it a strong contender as an inflation hedge, its volatility remains a significant risk. During 2023, Bitcoin experienced wild price swings, which could be concerning for some investors. Bitcoin's price can drop 20% or more within a matter of days, making it a risky investment for those who can't stomach short-term volatility. However, long-term believers in Bitcoin argue that its overall trajectory remains upward, especially as inflation continues to devalue traditional currencies. Looking ahead, will Bitcoin continue to act as a hedge against inflation? Experts are divided. Some believe Bitcoin's decentralized, finite nature makes it the perfect store of value in uncertain economic times, while others caution against its volatility. But as inflation continues to dominate headlines in 2024 and beyond, Bitcoin will undoubtedly remain a key part of the conversation. Whether Bitcoin is the ultimate hedge against inflation or not is still up for debate. However, its growing adoption and the global economic climate make it a fascinating asset to watch in 2024. What do you think? Will Bitcoin become the go-to hedge for inflation, or is its volatility